Welcome back to another episode of the Planify podcast. I'm Casey Cease, and today I have my good friend Dustin Stout, who is the founder of Magai, which is an all-encompassing AI platform with all the major models, tons of features and all that. But more importantly, in our episode today, Dustin's going to share his story of struggle as an entrepreneur, at the depths of really dark seasons, and then out of that, rising up and really building something that's been helping thousands of people, and it's just an amazing product. Full disclosure, I am a small equity investor in Magi, and I believe in the app very much, and so this is not soliciting anything from you other than letting you know about a great tool, but even more importantly, a great friend of mine and a great business owner. As you're looking to grow and scale your business, we want to offer you deep insight into people's lives and their growth, and let you know, hey, number one, you're not alone. Growing businesses is hard work, and we all face our challenges, and we want to celebrate our wins together. So without going on any further, I want you to meet Dustin Stout. Hey, Dustin, thanks for joining me today on the Planify podcast. Why don't you just take a minute and share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Dustin Stout, founder of Magi. I grew up in small town Pennsylvania. I wanted to be an actor when I grew up, moved out to California, found that that's a really hard thing to break into, especially if you don't have the connections, which I didn't. Got into ministry for a little while, ran a youth ministry for a local church, and just found myself drawn to technology all my life. And when I lost my salary at the church because they had budget cuts, I had to go get a real job, and found myself working for a t-shirt company while also learning how to build websites and blogging about how to build websites and how to do social media marketing. Before long, people were coming to me and saying, hey, you seem to know a lot about this. Can you help our business with it? And so that started my journey as a marketing consultant. Did that for about 12 years before I realized I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I'm not good at having a lot of clients because I spend way too much time trying to figure out what color and size the button should be, rather than getting help and delegating those kinds of tasks. So I realized that client work's probably not for me. I could get a lot more mileage out of my perfectionism if I focused on building products that serve a lot of people all at once. And that worked out for me. So started a little tech startup with a couple friends, exited that business in 2020, and started Magi really on the heels of a couple massive failures and the darkest period of my life. And, God's timing is always perfect, and it's not always easy, but he prepares you for every season of life. And when AI hit, I was in the best position I possibly could be to learn, to be humble, and realize that I had to really lock in and just not be overconfident, just to know that I know nothing, and to be a sponge and learn everything that I could so that I can build ultimately a product that serves people who aren't tech geniuses, that aren't AI engineers, that aren't developers. I was able to build a product that was for the average person, the average business owner, the average admin assistant, the average plumber, teacher, what have you, people who are not techies, and give them the power of this life-changing technology in one place.
Well, I love that, you and I, both as believers in Jesus, we can look backwards, and we also know that God is good, but there were some dark seasons.
Yeah.
And I think for the business owners watching here, a lot of times they bring people in, I bring a lot of people in like you who have experienced success. And, we try to be real honest about the fact that, like, there's always the valley.
Mm-hmm.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about a little bit more in depth on the journey to Magi? Because the company, I'm an early investor in Magi, but the company I actually invested in was a precursor.
Pretty different.
Something pretty different, but really, ultimately I invested in the founder, and the belief that you love to solve real problems facing real people. And so why don't you share that journey a little bit? Because Magi was, I always think, and I know this is out of context, biblically speaking, but the imagery of, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and die, it'll never bear any fruit. And that's kind of what we went through. Because when I invested, I knew the risk, and I knew that, hey, this probably, if anyone can figure something out, Dustin will. But when we launched the original idea and it didn't really gain any traction, I thought it was done. And so I have my own story with Magi, but I want you to share your story because I think it's important for people, um, to hear the battles of other entrepreneurs as
Yeah.
they go through growing a business.
Yeah, because we all have the battles, right? The unfortunate thing about our society as it currently stands is Instagram is a mirror that people have curated. It's not a mirror into real life. They have primmed and polished every post so that we only see the wins. So when you and I met, I think it was 2019.
Yep. It was in the fall of 2019, I believe,
Yeah.
at that church conference. Yeah.
Um, my wife earlier that year had just started to experience some really severe health issues. And at the time, my software business that I had with two other partners was kind of falling apart and had been falling apart for many years. We partners drifted apart. I was hustling day in and day out. Um, I felt like I was doing a lot of the work while my partners were not, sharing as much of the load. And I felt alone. I was the face of the company, and so when things went wrong, people came after me personally. It was a very traumatic time for me in terms of business, but also now my wife is experiencing these pretty crazy health issues that no doctor could diagnose. And she had to make a trip to the ER once for anxiety, severe anxiety, and like stuff happening. It was a vicious cycle. Something weird will happen in her body. She'll have a pain or discomfort, and then it sparks anxiety, and then that anxiety just exacerbates the issue. And so like she feels more pain and more discomfort, and just she spirals. So she made one fateful attempt to get help at the ER. They prescribed her a benzodiazepine, and that drug just completely ruined her mentally. She just had the worst reaction to it. It wasn't even the same woman that I was married to, and so she very quickly recognized that this drug was not for her. She needed to get off it. And the sad thing about benzos is that they have some severe psychological effects. Depression and suicide is one of the biggest concerns when trying to get off of benzos. And so she had to go on this big, water titration, how to wean herself off of this drug, because if you stop it cold turkey, you could die. And so she was a part of these help groups where people in the groups were also dealing with the same thing, and several of them committed suicide. And so it was like my wife was dealing with hell, absolute hell. And I'm, a business owner. My one business is kind of failing and declining. My relationship, my partners is disintegrated. I'm stressed out over that. I'm trying to manage a family of 3 kids and trying to pay the bills, and my wife not working at the time, dealing with the stroke. It was a nightmare. Darkest season of my life. And so I started to struggle with depression. I started to struggle with suicidal thoughts. And there were several times where I thought, this is it. Like, I'm done. I'm going to find a way to exit this life and go home to be with Jesus, because there's nothing left for me on this earth. And, it was 2020s when I exited that business. I took my exit. I had a couple of ideas for software companies I want to start, products I want to start. And that's where you came in and believed in me when I wasn't so sure about myself, and launched those 2 products. It cost $30,000 just to get the development work done. I myself am not a developer. I know enough about code to be dangerous, but I always try to hire people who are smarter than me to build the products to make them work. And this was before vibe coding. This is way before AI became a coding assistant, right? This was back in 2020 when the world was still dealing with COVID. And so you have that magnifying everything that's going on in my personal and business life, right? So, it was just absolute chaos, and tried to launch these 2 products. I thought they were great ideas. Many people told me they were great ideas, but, unfortunately, the vision I had in my head for these products was about $100 million vision. Like, I was thinking of turning these products into AI-based products before AI was even accessible. So Visual was the first product, and it was supposed to be this, pioneering way to easily and quickly generate social media graphics for your business. Now, we couldn't build the $100 million version of it because it wasn't easy and I didn't have that amount of capital. We had a few $1,000s to pour into development, and the minimum viable product, unfortunately, just didn't get the traction that it needed to survive. And so for 2 years, and the other product was a way of turning any web page into social media content. And so like repurposing a web page. And again, before AI, but nobody bought. I mean, a handful of people bought, a handful of people caught the vision and paid, but not anywhere near the ability to sustain it or even fund further development for what we actually wanted to build. And so I'm, 2022, I'm dead broke. I mean, we probably burned through $65,000, all my life savings at that point. I wasn't going to ask our investors for any more cash because I just couldn't deliver. I couldn't live with myself asking people for money when I'm clearly not able to do anything with the money that I was given, right? So dead broke, not sure how I was going to pay the mortgage. I finally did the one thing that most entrepreneurs dread. I started filling out job application, and it was a real hard moment for me. I remember the conversation my wife had with me. At this point, she'd healed up. My wife was much better, and she was starting to think like maybe she needs to get a job now, because in our 12 years of marriage up to that point, she had not worked. She'd been a stay-at-home mom, and that was great, and that's what I wanted her to be. But finances were tight, so I started applying for these jobs. Some of them, friends of mine who work for big companies. I'm looking for work, and they interviewed me and went through over a dozen interviews total. Not a single company would hire me because many of them told me flat out, like, you're a flight risk. We feel like as soon as you find another business idea, you're going to leave, and then we're going to have to replace you. And nobody would hire me. And I'll never forget, it was my birthday on February 17th, 2023. So at this point, I had started fiddling with building AI into those products. So November 2022, ChatGPT hits. I catch the vision. God just basically says, this is going to change everything. I saw the next 5 years was going to change. So I started tinkering with the AI tools, but in my head, I'm like, I don't know how to build anything with these. But, I found the right tutorial at the right time. Like, oh, maybe I could build this little like idea generator into our failing product at the time, but never really thought like I can build an entire app out of this thing. It was more like an add-on. So in January, I kind of started to tinker. And then meanwhile, I'm interviewing for these companies. One company put me through like 7 interviews. And then February 17th, as I'm like in the midst of having this idea of maybe I can produce an app, but I've also got these job prospects that we need to make a living. I need to put food on the table. So I'm hinging everything on these interviews. February 17th, it's my birthday, 2023. I get a message from the last employer that I was in the interview process with. And he starts out by saying, hey, happy birthday, first of all. And I know this is not the best way best thing to hear on your birthday, but we decided to go in a different direction. Via Facebook message, he told me, happy birthday, we're not hiring you. We don't want you either. And at this point, I had been praying daily for God to take me home, because I was looking at 4 years at that point of failure after failure after failure. My wife's health issues, and then dealing with business not working out, and nobody wanting to hire me. I felt like I had absolutely nothing left to give. And so I was like, God, I'm trying everything I can, and you're not blessing anything. I must have nothing left to give. So just take me home. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm failing as a father. I'm failing as a husband. I'm failing as a business owner. Like, none of my gifts are fruitful. So just take me home. And that Facebook message was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I remember sitting there going, all right, my wife's gone. My kids are gone. How do I send myself home? And how are they going to find me? How do I make it so that it's not as traumatizing as it can be? I started in my head planning it out. And I totally forgot that my dad, who lives on the East Coast, was coming to visit that week. And he texted me right then and there and said, hey, I'm around the corner. I'll be there in a minute. And I was like, crap, I guess I can't do anything because my dad's on the way. So like, unknowing to him, he probably saved my life, and it was God's timing, right? But I was like, okay, I guess I have to just keep moving forward then. And thank God that I did, because I had nothing left to give. I had all the humility in the world because I had zero confidence in myself. And I thought, well, like, if I have to keep moving forward, I have to figure out what this product's going to be, because I see what's happening in the industry. I see all these apps popping up and how everybody's going to have 15 different subscriptions and a bunch of different logins just to access all these tools. And maybe I can find a way to make it easier for people. Maybe I can make it easier for myself, because I wanted these tools to be more accessible to me. And I wanted things like folders and the ability to invite team members, things that none of the other apps had yet. I finally found this no code core.
Well, let me interrupt you right there. Let's not breeze past what you just said, because I think every founder has had those broken points,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not as severe. But I do want to say, if someone's listening to this and you're at that place of desperation, or you've been at that place, or you ever find yourself in that place, let's go back and coach that Dustin. Thank God for your dad, and thank God that he showed up when he did. But what are other things you think you could have done? Number one, you had a friend named Casey
Yeah.
that you could have, been there for. But like, let's coach that person where thank God you didn't. That would have been a really big bummer. And I would have been mad at you, obviously, and
Rightfully
hurt.
so.
But obviously, like, going back there, thank God that happened for you. But what would you advise someone like, obviously you were where you were, things were bad. I've struggled with mental health issues in my past, and know that, like, you think no one cares, no one wants to be there. But what would you advise you to do, or someone in your situation?
Oh, man. I mean, it's hard because when you're in that place, you just don't have the ability to
All right.
to because you feel so hopeless. Um, but the one thing that my wife kept telling me, that I think was one of the reasons why I made it, was that if God hasn't taken you home yet, it means He still has something for you. As it's Ephesians 2:10, right? He has a plan and a purpose for us. He's prepared in advance the good works for us to do, and we have to cling to that scripture and trust that His word is true, and that He does have good works for us to do, and that every storm passes. And as hard as it is in that place of hopelessness, thinking nobody cares, I don't want to burden anybody with this. You have to go against your own feelings. You have to go against that, because that is the enemy. Let's be 100% clear. That is the devil, his works and effects at work, preventing you from getting the help that you need. You have to go against that inclination to isolate and to hide away. And you have to reach out for help. Just send someone a message and say, hey, I need to talk to someone. Just
Yeah.
something out.
What I advise people to do is make your worst case scenario plan, and not necessarily say that, but basically, who in my top 20, I don't want to talk to them. I'm afraid of what they might say. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, if it's not for but God or my children or whatever, who am I going to reach out? Like, I need help, or just send help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a person that's in a really dark place isn't necessarily going to call 911 on themselves, but you absolutely
Right.
can,
Yep.
right? The suicide hotline. There's a lot of different places to reach out, but I always find, like, hey, starting a business is a risky endeavor, and those of us that are wired to do so probably have a screw or two loose somewhere,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So as in all of our best gifts are also a double-edged sword,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's like, I always make, the provisional plan of, hey, if I'm in a really dark spot, who will I reach out to? And I've even reached out to friends. You're one of the people I would just text and say, help. My friend Justin, my friend Brad. I mean, I have tons of people that I've been in depression before, and I haven't want to reach out to
Mm-hmm.
anyone, and I forced myself to. And so I think for you, man, it's like, thank God that occurred. But I know so many business owners that, like you said, Instagram is a curated mirror, right? And not many people will say, and I appreciate your vulnerability today, because it's so true. I've worked with so many business owners as a coach or as clients, that when things are going awesome, awesome. But when things are crumbling, which they can happen very quickly, even in a very successful business,
Yeah.
they need to ask for help. And so I just wanted to pause there, because I'm like, this is too good to not be able to go back and say like, hey, you're not a lone wolf in that thing. And thank God your dad showed up. But I also wanted to give a framework for people listening and saying like, hey, people do care. There are resources out there that you can ask and get help at because, because you and I can look backwards with 2020 vision of seeing God's hand throughout everything, every step of the way of the business. But it were some scary times where, you had taken investor money and you'd worked your tail off, but it didn't take off. You had exhausted your personal savings account. Your wife had gone through a really tough health time and was getting better, but it was a tough season. And so I want to pick back up now in your story. You go and start asking these better questions. So you're going there trying to add these AI features into So Visual and the other product. And then you had this kind of aha, but you're like, I'm not a developer. And you found a no code platform and some videos at the right time.
Yeah.
So let's pick up there. Yeah.
It was like, God gave me the vision, and then it's almost like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear kind of thing. And I think, when you are ready, God puts the right things in your place. He won't put them in your path before you're ready, I think. So I just found this, I can't even remember how I came across it. It must have been like Twitter or something. Like I just saw something and someone was like, no code, how to build your own AI app with no code. And I was like, well, might as well try it. And I think I watched the first lesson for free or something. And this guy was selling his full, how to build basically a ChatGPT like app with no code tools. And the course was like $400 or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, $400 is so much money for me at that point. But what else am I going to do? Like, I can see the kind of product that I want to make, and it's probably more than this tutorial is going to tell me. But I've always been, I think God has always gifted me with the MacGyver gene, like limited tools and resources. You can kind of like figure out.
Oh yeah. I can absolutely affirm that.
You. Scrappy and using the resources that you have and stretching them as far as possible. I mean, probably stems from a lot of, when my wife and I first got married, we were so broke. It wasn't even funny. I was making like $1,000 a month as a youth director and working part-time at the mall to like make ends meet. And like, we stretched that budget, boy. But I had the ability to figure things out and abstract concepts, apply them in different ways. And so I did. So I found the $400 and I paid for the course and I learned how to build a ChatGPT like app. And then as I'm learning through the course, I'm taking that knowledge and saying, well, okay, I know how to build this function. And if I apply it in this way, maybe I can build this other function that he didn't talk about. And so I did. I also ended up emailing the guy who created the course, asking him a bunch of questions as much as he would tolerate, and hacked my way basically through the first version of Magi. I started in February building it. And by March 31st of 2023, just 5 months after ChatGPT hit the scene, I had version 1 of Magi ready to go and ready to sell to early customers. And it was 8 weeks of just nonstop learning and tinkering and building and failing and talking to customers. Like, actually, I'm an extrovert. Like, this about me, but the audience is, I'm like extremely extroverted. So I love talking to people. And every chance I got, I was like, I would build something and I would send it to somebody like, what do you think about this? And they would give me feedback and go, okay, maybe change a few things. And all the while I'm like using social media to like build in public and just actively share the journey of what I'm trying to build. And it was almost like once I had no other option but to move forward, I just one step in front of the other, just built. May not work, probably won't work, but I just have to build. And hopefully I built something that people actually like and will get value out of. And by the grace of God, that's what happened.
So I remember seeing you post about Magi online, and I was an investor, and I was like, man, that's awesome. And I remember sending you, I think, a Facebook message or text like, hey, man, Magi looks good, man. I can't wait to use it. And you're like, don't worry, you're an early investor. You didn't have to do that.
No.
Right. There was myself and one other investor that did the seed round for the other idea. And the integrity you showed of saying, hey, from that came this, from that idea came this, and I'm going to honor your investment and make you a part of this. You didn't. As an investor, that's not very normal. And I just want to speak to the character and integrity that you showed of honoring those who went before took a risk with you and a bet on you. And just to speak to that of like, hey, you've always been very open. I since brought another investor, a couple years ago, and you've been very fair, open, and inviting of feedback. And just, I think that's been honored, not only by the Lord, but those people in your ecosystem. And so you've had pretty substantial growth. I mean, to $1 million business, and valuation on SaaS would be place it much higher than that. And you haven't yet really gone to do a Series A raise, but you've grown the business basically off cash flow.
Yeah.
So what are some key learns you've learned the last couple of years since you went post revenue, meaning someone paid you some money, and you started bringing in income? Like what are some unexpected joys and maybe a few unexpected trials?
Well, I mean, you say that I could have, I didn't have to bring you guys over. And I guess from a purely financial and legal standpoint, no, I didn't have to. But to me, integrity is the most valuable asset you can ever own as an individual, whether that's an employee or as a business owner or just as a human. Integrity is crucial. So really, I didn't have an option. I mean, to me, you guys invested in me. I didn't deliver, and I was going to, one way or another, make sure that you were honored in your investment. That I somehow thank you and find a way to bring ROI to you for investing in me when I really didn't had have anything but a dream, really, as in some ideas, some kooky ideas. So to me, it wasn't an option. It was just, these guys they believed in me, and they're coming with me, whether I succeed or fail, because I really didn't know at that point. But I was going to honor that one way or another. And even the old customers, the people who actually did buy the products that failed, I rolled them right into Magi as well. I said, you guys are never going to have to pay for Magi because you believed in these products. And I always honor the people who helped me along the way. So to me, there was no option. But I think integrity is one of those things that you can't compromise, and you honor the people who lift you up, and they will continue to lift you up, and you help each other every step of the way. And that's just the way you have to be. It's the way that I think makes our maker proud, because at the end of the day, I have to stand before my maker, and the only words I'm looking to hear are, well done, good and faithful servant. And any decision I make that doesn't get to that end, I don't want to be a part of. I want to make all the right decisions. So anyway, yeah, to me, it was no option. I was going to bring you guys whether you like.
Well, I'm grateful, and I would have understood the other way.
Yeah.
I may have wanted some like on-site credits or something, but like I think in general, like just watching you model that integrity. And I want to say, AI is a double-edged sword in many ways,
Yeah.
and it makes me really happy to have someone like you at the helm of a growing company in the space with that type of integrity and willingness to really enhance people's experience in their life with the benefits of AI. So going back to my question, what are some of the unexpected joys? I know you had a real
Yeah.
big boost. You try a ton of things to get users out there, but you had one pretty significant boost a while back. But any learns along the way? Yeah.
A lot of the joys of the relationships, obviously, because again, I'm an extrovert and I love people. I love being able to teach. And so being that this is a new technology and something that the entire world is trying to figure out, I got to accelerate that learning curve for myself by just diving in head first and eyes deep in all the AI stuff. And so I learned about how AI works and how to make it work for you. And I wasn't just a casual chat GPT user. I'm trying to understand how these models interact and what tools and functions and features and how it's all orchestrated, so that when I do teach people about it, I have the deepest possible knowledge. And so I get to teach about that, how to use AI. And for me, I saw a bunch of people when the internet hit. I was still young. I didn't own a business yet, but I saw a bunch of these businesses who saw this internet wave come, and they go, well, we've done business this way for years and decades, and we're not going to change. And we're in the yellow pages. We don't need a Google. We don't need an SEO. We don't need a website. And we saw those businesses, real businesses with real people, get wiped out. Mm-hmm. And, part of how I'm wired is I want to teach. I want people to have the tools and the education resources so that they don't get wiped out by this next wave of technology. I want to see people thrive. And I keep saying this, nobody left behind. So I get to teach, and that's one of the great joys that I have. And I've been on several stages over the last 3 years, most recently in Nashville, speaking to the Evangelical Press Association convention, seeing these people in my talks or my classes whose eyes, like, finally you see the light bulb go on. I'll never forget, there's a woman named Patty who I've seen the last 2 years I've spoken at this conference. And she told me the first year, like, I was so intimidated by AI. I've been doing journalism for like 40 years. And I thought my career was over because AI is going to replace me. But I sat in your class and it finally made sense to me. You made it seem like I can actually do this, and you gave me tangible ways to get started. And I was like, that's it, Patty. It's all about Patty and the Patties of the world, so that she doesn't get left behind. So she's empowered by this new technology to go do more things, to do better, faster, more efficient work. So that's been a big joy. And of course, the people I meet along the way who are also teaching in AI, and you get to learn the other people who are sort of locking arms with you and doing this whole AI movement thing. And that's been a real joy. For me, it's the relationships more than anything else. I mean, the revenue's great. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoy not wondering where my next paycheck's going to come. Right. So, the finances have been great, and we've had some great success. I've been on, like you said, a really great podcast last year. I got to be a guest on Bradley's Dropping Bombs podcast. And, it was a great honor, and basically doubled our business overnight, once we were on that show. And I'll be on it again here very soon. If not by the time this recording airs, we'll have been on it again. But yeah, I mean, it's been really great, to feel like the work that I'm doing is actually improving people's lives. That it's actually giving value and being used, in the craziest places. Like journalists over in third world countries are able to use Magi to, help the work that they're doing. School teachers who are overwhelmed and overrun with tasks and stuff. My wife is a teacher. She gets to use AI to help lighten her workload, to see just the impact of the products you build, or the education that you get to do, help people live better and do better work is by far the most rewarding part of it.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what Magi does now? Like, what are the features? What are the benefits of Magi? You just rolled out a new feature, at least the time of this recording, and you're going to be rolling out the next feature probably by the time this airs.
Several more.
Yeah, several more. So why don't you tell us kind of where it is today? It's magi.co. We'll have notes in the show notes, or links in the show notes. But tell us a little bit about what exactly Magi is, how it can be used in business, and then what features are rolling out and what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. So the purpose of Magi is to really be the one place where you get all the AI things. Instead of having a ChatGPT subscription and then a Claude subscription and a Gemini, and then going over to this app and then over to that app and then get your images over here, it centralizes everything. So you get ChatGPT, you get Claude, you get Gemini, but it's one central place. So all your conversation history, all of your images, all of your videos, all of your context, all of your documents, all of your connections to, say, Google Drive or Outlook or all these third-party apps. You don't have to constantly switch apps to get the newest, greatest model. All of them are in one central location. So you can start a conversation with Claude, finish it up with Gemini, and it never loses the context that you've given it. Right? Your history isn't fragmented across multiple different logins. It's all in one place. On top of that, it's private. Privacy is the first and foremost thing that we do with every AI model that we add. We have contracts that we have with these companies that say you are not allowed to train on our users' data. All of our users' data is private and secure and will not be fed into the next AI model. And that's important, especially for business owners who are working with proprietary information, maybe customer data that they don't want leaked or compromised. So it's, all in one AI, all the different AI things in one place, one history, one way to connect to all the different things. And as AI evolves and these other apps gain new capabilities and new features, we are trying our best to keep in step with those features. So one of the things we rolled out recently was the ability to have build HTML apps inside of Magi. Have the AI write the code and actually test out the app inside of Magi. Have the AI do that on your behalf to write documents for you, and have a document editor. You can then export that PDF and put it wherever you need to go. And then our connectors were the other thing that were the big recent one. We have over 130 different third-party app connections that you can make. So again, you want to connect to Google Drive or Outlook or Todoist or ClickUp or all these different apps, Notion, over 130 different connections. You can now have your AI connect to and take actions on, just like you can in Claude or ChatGPT. And then soon we'll have agentic workflows, scheduled tasks, the ability to say, hey, every day at 3 p.m., I want you to go through my email and extract all the important stuff and draft some emails on my behalf for these people. So you'll have full-on agentic ability inside of Magi soon. And so the end goal is just to be the easiest centralized way to access all the AI things without fragmenting your workflows.
I personally couldn't have put it better. So, Dustin, I appreciate you joining me on the show today. Where can people find you online?
Just head to magai.co, magai.co, and find out everything you need to know.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I'm sure I'll have you on the show again.